Hey, Kevin here, top 100 financial advisor and best-selling author, and we are here to talk about the stock market. Today, we're going to do a bird's eye view, a bird's eye comparison of AT&T versus T-Mobile. This is a topic that y'all asked for. I think it's a pretty interesting one based on where these companies ended up. I think it's a good lesson also about long-term investing and how things may or may not end up the way you expect them to. So let's go ahead and get started. So first, we'll start with AT&T. Y'all pretty much know AT&T. Their commercials are everywhere. They have the store manager Lily, which I think is hilarious, and she does funny commercials and pretty much promotes the brand of AT&T of their cell phone service. Like that is their main thing, but it's not their only thing, and that's extremely important for understanding how AT&T's business works. So in 2015, they've been starting in 2015, if you will, they started making some pretty big acquisitions, and they're looking to kind of pivot in a way and be more than just a phone company. So in 2015, they bought DirecTV. Again, trying to diversify, trying to get more market share and say, look, we do cell phones and we do TV. In 2018, they continued this trend and paid $85 billion for Time Warner. Time Warner owns a lot of stuff and comes with a whole lot of baggage. So Time Warner has, I think it's Warner Brothers, like their studio. So a lot of the DC movies, Wonder Woman 1984, Justice League, all that type of stuff. You got that. You got HBO. That's a big one. Plus HBO Max, which is actually pretty cool. I don't know if Time Warner is a part of Discovery or not, but I think AT&T, and correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, I'm pretty sure that Discovery is owned by AT&T as well. And then you've got Turner Broadcasting Company, which includes CNN, and includes other networks. Cartoon Network used to be a part of them. I still think that they are, but also TNT. So when you think about TNT and the NBA, all falls under Time Warner, which all falls under AT&T. Here's the problem, though. The stock at the beginning of the year, up until maybe last week, was actually pretty solid. We're talking double-digit returns, close to like 12% for the year. However, because this is expensive, $85 billion that you spent to acquire this, things aren't working out so well. AT&T is looking to kind of restructure that, and they've decided to cut their dividend. Or I'll say this, effectively, the changes that they're making that's going to cut the dividend, and a lot of people invest in AT&T solely because of the dividend. They kind of fall into what I call dividend trap, which we'll talk a little bit about. Now, in the other corner, we have T-Mobile, also primarily known for their cell phone service. They also made a big acquisition not too long ago. They bought Sprint. T-Mobile, I was going to say AT&T. T-Mobile actually took off and was a really, really great company up until recently, or I'm sorry, a great stock up until recently. Right now, by most measures, they are the leader in 5G. I think that is going to help them in the very near future, as opposed to where Verizon and AT&T are in that space. So we'll see where it goes. But looking at it as a business person, right, you may be thinking, or you should be thinking, well, and this is conventional logic, is, well, I got cell phones. Like I want to have my company. I want my company to have multiple streams of income, right? Every other company, most of them anyway, has multiple streams of income. Amazon's got Amazon Cloud, then they've got the website. Or I'm sorry, they got AWS, which is the cloud. They've got the regular website. They got Whole Foods. They got all these different things they can be in. The streaming service. They can be in all these different places and make money no matter what. Well, I think that was a thought of AT&T. I got the cell phone service, I got landline, whoever still uses those, and I got DirecTV. And if you don't want that, then I also got HBO Max. If you don't want that, I also got the movies. You can't really escape in terms of entertainment and communications. I think that was the thought. The stock, though, doesn't actually reflect that. And again, now because their dividends effectively being cut, it ain't going to look good. The problem is a lot of people, outside of buying AT&T directly for the dividend, it tends to be included in a lot of dividend funds and ETFs, including a lot of retirement funds, institutional funds. Well, as word is getting out, that may no longer be the case, where people start to sell off big chunks of AT&T. We've already seen a quick turnaround of that. I'll show you guys a chart in just a second, but I see that accelerating, which by default makes T-Mobile a clearer winner here. But again, we're looking at the future. So I'll show you this now, and we'll discuss as we walk through it, and then we'll close in a few minutes. So here it is right here. Year to date, which means all the way back to January to right now, you see AT&T is still up. And before this announcement of all of this stuff on the 14th, AT&T was at 12% return compared to, at the time for T-Mobile, was close to about 5% if you look to the right. So that's a 7% gap, which again, you start doing that over and over again, that's pretty good. However, this time frame doesn't tell the entire story. So let me move this out the way and show y'all. So again, right now they've come a lot closer together. Let me hit year to date because that kind of brings us back to December here. There we go. So let's go back 6 months and see what it looks like at that point in time. So if you go back 6 months, did it show me the whole 6 months? Yeah, you go back 6 months, you got 4.8 compared to 4. T-Mobile only 0.8% behind. That ain't much of a difference, but again, the majority of that is due to the dip in that dividend. But there was a big bounce for AT&T today. If we go back a year and see what's happened in the past year, now this was COVID, so take it for what it's worth. You had 36% return compared to just 2. You go back 2 years, you go from you almost double again for T-Mobile, up 78% versus almost a negative 7% for AT&T. So you can really see that AT&T has been sliding for quite some time. We can look at 5 years. I don't think it's that important, but you can look at it. You can show you negative 22% compared to 222% return. So you can see the differences between the two, and that in this instance, by looking at this, yeah, T-Mobile is a clear winner, but that was 2 years ago. That was a year ago. That was 6 months ago. That does not mean that it's going to be the case in the future. But I think based on what we see, based on what we know about that dividend, and based on how we know the market works, you very rarely get rewarded for cutting a dividend when you have been known for a strong dividend stock. Now, the problem that most new investors fall into is going for what I call the dividend trap, meaning that, oh my God, they had this high dividend yield. I need to go and buy this so I can get paid a monthly income, passive income, so on and so forth. And that's not all that great when, number one, the stock continues to fall, right? So the stock is down 7%. It makes the dividend yield look a lot better. So I'm going to give you a really quick example, and then we'll finish up today. So let's go to the whiteboard, or the blackboard, I guess now, and hopefully it doesn't freeze on us. If it does, you'll be seeing me looking very awkwardly into the screen, which I hope does not happen. And let's double check. There we go. All right, so it's going to work for us. So remember the way a dividend yield works. So I'm just going to put div yield. And remember, a dividend yield, ooh, that does not look great. So a dividend yield first, a dividend is what people pay you, or what the company pays you as a shareholder. So they say, look, we've got some money. Everybody who owns this, everybody gets $1 just for holding the share. And that's what's called essentially dividend, high level, right? So I'm just going to rewrite this. Div yield. Boom, it looks way better. All right, so a lot of times this shows up on Yahoo Finance, so I'll show you this real quick too. This is how you can find it. You can also Google what's the dividend for X company, and it'll show up. So right here, there you go, for dividend and yield, 7.18%. That looks really good. They're going to pay you $2 for every share. However, if you do the math, 2.08 divided by 29.64 should get you real close to 7%. So that's where your excuse me, that's where you get a lot of that from. So 7.8%, that looks like a very good dividend yield. But remember, and I don't think y'all can see this screen, so let me back up and show y'all that real quick. That we're on the same page. All right, there you go. So here's AT&T. You can go to a place like Yahoo Finance and it'll show you this, and you see here the 7.18% dividend yield. But remember, this is a fraction, right? You take that dividend, 2.08 divided by 29.64, that's what gets you, divided by that number, that's what gets you the dividend yield. Problem is though, that's just a function of math. So actually the further down, there's two ways to play with this number, but the further the stock goes down, the better that yield looks, because remember, that is the denominator. So remember, you take the dividend divided by the stock price. Okay, so the lower the stock price, I taught 7th grade math, so we do this all the time. The lower the stock price, the higher the yield. So you don't want to fall into like 7%, 8%, 10% dividend. That's amazing. but you get your little $2 because remember it's only $2, and that dividend can stay the same. And in AT&T's case, it's actually going to be cut. So in a case like this, the dividend can stay the same at $2, but as the stock starts to drop more and more and more, that dividend yield looks good. So you'll be holding on to something, getting your little $2 while you're losing 20. So you want to be very careful of that because again, that stock price is going to be on the dividend. The denominator, and the lower that denominator, the higher the yield is going to look. For example, let's just say 1/2. I don't want to get into super math mode here, but just to give y'all an example of what this would look like. And it looks like it's locking me out, so hopefully it allows me, there we go, to write normally, and we'll finish up here. Apparently my laptop does not like math today and does not want me to to educate in a normal way. So we might leave that alone. But for example, 1/2 is 1/2. There we go. That's gonna let me write. All right, so 1/2, 1/2, that would give us 50%. Well, if the stock price continues to fall, or let's actually do it this way. If I do 1/4, that's 25%, right? So you get $1 the stock price is for as a 25% dividend yield, which would be ridiculous. But as that stock price falls, and let's say that it goes from $4 per share to $2 per share, the stock is fallen by 50%. But the dividend yield, they're still going to pay you $1 for every share you have. But now your dividend yield is, oh my God, it's 50%. I'm just going to go for all the dividend yield stocks. That ain't the best place that you want to be because again, that metric alone is not going to help you. You want to see the health of the business and whether or not that is whether or not that's sustainable for them. In AT&T's case, that's not necessarily the case. So be wary of the dividend trap because that does tend to happen. But anytime that a company decides to cut its dividend, it's a strong yellow flag. I'm not going to say it's a red off the top, but it's a strong yellow flag. So you want to be very careful. But in the case of T-Mobile versus T-Mobile versus AT&T, you got to go with T-Mobile. They seem to be in a healthier financial position. I think it was a really easy conclusion to come up with. But it doesn't mean, as you saw by the charts, it doesn't make it. First, it doesn't mean that either are going to be better than the S&P 500. That's the first thing. You might be able to get an index fund to do better than both. From what we see right now. But want to throw that out there, but also what happened in the past doesn't predict the future. But given what we know now that 5G is supposed to be the wave, that T-Mobile is the leader there, I think at some point T-Mobile will kind of get back to its 2020 ways and beyond and really be more of a growth stock than it is kind of in the value lame duck phase. So I'll also say lastly before we close out that AT&T for the beginning of this year, I think that was an anomaly because you saw how it was, 6 months, a year, and further back. For 6 months, they're only up 4%. But this year, up until recently, they were up 12. That's not normal. That's what 3 times higher than what AT&T normally does. And it really seems like they're coming back to what their norm is pretty bad. Yeah, okay, it was pretty bad. It was going to be nice. Pretty bad and usually negative. So just be aware of that. All right, so that is it for me. Hopefully this isn't lagging and doing weird things. On my screen, it looks weird, so hopefully this recording works. All right, that's it for me. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.